As Count Corla, and I welcome the opportunity to discuss science and its role and importance in our society and for our future in Science Week. I think the Minister said at some speech relating to Science Week that science is about being human, and I think that's absolutely right. It sort of defines in a way what being human is, although I think Deputy Gannon was also right to say the other thing that defines what being human is art, because science and art are the two things that human beings do that are completely unique, in that we imagine other possible futures and then we endeavour to make those futures happen. That is completely unique to our species. The bumblebee who makes the beehive has been making the same beehive for thousands and thousands of years. They don't decide to change the design. And no other animal or species is capable of doing that, of imagining something that isn't there and then actually trying to find the wherewithal and develop the means to make it happen. So these are two uniquely human attributes which give us both a huge responsibility and a huge opportunity. And we have to be serious when we say we're going to support these things. And I will only say, because it's primarily science we're looking at here, but that in terms of the arts, which in a way it's the sort of precursor of the science, is that you imagine first and then you try and get the materials and the wherewithal and the nuts and bolts to make the thing that you imagine happen. So without art there is no science, I would argue. And when you look at the level of money that we invest in art proportionately, it is a tiny fraction of art and culture. It is a tiny fraction of what it should be, and is pitifully low compared to most of our European counterparts. The estimates seem to vary. One estimate is that we spend about 0.1% of GDP on art. I asked the Minister how they were progressing in addressing that pitifully low level of investment. And they said it was maybe 0.2 in actuality, but the average in Europe is about 0.6. And I just think it's worth thinking about an important comparison here. The push to militarise Europe with PESCO is to get military expenditure up to 2% of GDP. Most European states are beyond that. So they're aiming for military expenditure, means to kill people, to be 3 times higher than the average European expenditure, and it would be about 20 times higher than our current arts expenditure. So that's worth just dwelling on our priorities in terms of where we're using our imaginations and our scientific know-how to develop ways to kill people, ever more sophisticated ways to kill people, rather than to make society a better place or to address the climate crisis. And if that's true of art, well, look at science. The expenditure on research, innovation and science from Minister Harris's department this year was reduced by 3%. Reduced. So it's all very well talking about taking seriously science and having science weeks and blowing the trumpet of the importance of science, but in actuality we cut the budget, the public expenditure on science, and that is pretty shameful, particularly when you look at the people who actually do the research and the science. The postgrad researchers are living on less than the minimum wage. The average earning for a postgrad in this country, PhD researcher, is €9,000. Imagine trying to live on that, €9,000. The government I have talked, because of a massive campaign by the postgrad researchers and the postgrad workers organisation, who are demanding they be treated as workers, to be paid a living wage, that they get things like sick pay and holiday entitlements instead of the sort of precarious situation they're on, have said they need really about €30,000 a year. By the way, in much of Europe, they get paid about €50,000. But here they get 9,000. The government has given a marginal increase for those who get the funded PhDs from the SFI and the other body, I can't remember what its name, the public body, but it's only a small proportion who are going to see their stipends go from 18,000 to 22,000, but that's still way below the living wage, and the vast majority of PhD researchers still won't get that. So the vast majority of the people we expect to do this science that we're lauding in Science Week are living in poverty and are under pressure actually to depart the country or to give up on their scientific research. And if you just compare the budgets for publicly funded science, the total this year, down 3%, is 264 million. How much do we give to the big multinational corporations in research and development tax breaks every year? 750 million last year. And the government have also given them an increase in that to bring it up by another 57 million. And the vast majority of this, as my finance committee, we prized out of the finance committee, is going to about 100 of the richest corporations in the world. Google, Facebook, Apple, etc., right? So they're getting money to research new iPhones to make fortunes on the already obscene profits that they're making to develop things that, quite frankly, aren't that useful for society, while the people who might be developing new medicines, the people who might be developing climate technology, stuff to make our society better, are getting a tiny fraction of the money. So we need to change our priorities if we're serious about science and its value to our society.